Let me go ahead. I'll share my screen. I've got Instagram going too. For anybody that's signing in that way. But I just want to kind of talk through it and at least show the visual of what I want you guys to be thinking of. And I think this came to me this morning. I was thinking about this. This is something that a lot of, like, this is my exercise physiology kind of background coming through of something that I think about frequently, but it's not something I always like share with people. But I think these concepts, if you can learn these concepts, you can really correct any type of exercise mistake that you might be making. Oftentimes in fitness, we are talking about muscles and what are the muscles doing and what muscles should you feel this in, and you know what muscles are working. But the spine and the joints are just as important, and they're doing just as much the job when we're doing strength training as our muscles are. So it's important that we are also using your joints effectively, and we're not just focusing on the muscles. And I'll kind of explain as we go through our exercises tonight. But frequently you can be doing an exercise, and if I give you cueing for like stand this way, bend forward, elbows back, this and that, you can be doing all of those things correctly, but still be actually doing the exercise wrong because your muscles are moving the right way, but your joints are not moving the right way. And it's really kind of confusing to think about right now, but it's going to make sense as we go through and break apart our exercises tonight. But pretty much what I want to go through is that it's every other joint placement is going to be either a stable joint or a mobile joint. And what that means is which is the big mover when you go to do exercises, which things should be movement based, and which joints are there to actually stabilize. And stabilize doesn't mean not move at all. You're going to move through these joints. All joints have some mobility in them. But it's important to know which ones are the leading joints and which ones are kind of the holding joints. So starting from top, your cervical spine, that should be stable. So at the top of your neck, you should always have a stable cervical spine. Moving down your back, your thoracic spine, the middle of your back, that's the mobile part of your back. That's the part that should be moving with exercise. Moving down, lumbar spine, where a lot of people have problems, right? Low back problems are huge. That should be stable with exercise. This is a big one, and I'll show this plenty of times in our exercises tonight. Most people have a tendency to be way too mobile in their lumbar spines, and that's why a lot of times you feel back pain with certain exercises. Hips, mobile. Hips are meant to be very mobile. Your knees, again, are meant to be stable. So it's every other. Knees are meant to be stable. This is another common one, that people are very mobile through their knees, and they really need to work on stabilizing their knees. Ankles should be mobile as well. So I just want you to kind of think about that going down your spine, every other. Cervical, stable. Thoracic, mobile. Lumbar, stable. Hips, mobile. Knees, stable. Ankles, mobile. And then what I'm going to do today is I'm going to break apart. We're going to do 6 different exercises today. Generally, I do 8 exercises. Today, we're going to do 6, and we're going to do 6 of the most foundational movements. And we're going to really take our time with them because I want us to kind of learn how to apply this to these exercises. It will really help you if you can kind of get this combined with what you guys are already doing for your fitness. You're going to start to feel exercises better. If there's certain ones where you've never felt like, I said this kind of in the post, if you feel like, I never feel this in the right place, or like she's getting so low in her squat, or when I do it, it doesn't look like you. I hear that a lot too. When you do it, let it look the way I do it. And sometimes that's because joint wise, your joints are not doing exactly what they need to be. So I just wanted to share that picture for those of you guys that don't have social media, so that you get a chance to view that. I like that visual. But then we're going to talk about it. So we're going to go ahead and get going with our warm-up. Let me go ahead, Naoko, I'm transferring this over to you so you can hopefully catch anybody that comes in later on. And then if you just want to spotlight it on me, that would be great. I'll move my chair out of the way. So for tonight, you will need weights. I am actually going to encourage you guys, if you want to use weights, awesome. But if you actually don't and you just want to focus on the movement tonight, that's also fine. But we will go through our normal warm-up. So we're going to start with our 25 jumping jacks. Remember, you can be here. We can go into our full jump whenever you guys are ready. Let's go for it. 25 jack. All right, once you get 25, we're just gonna go through our mobility drills. And again, these are things by the end of the class, you'll understand maybe why we do some of these warm-ups. So looking over your right shoulder, stretch and breathe. And looking over your left shoulder. Back to center, tilting right ear down towards your right shoulder. And left ear down to left shoulder. And back to center, head rolls now down around to the right. All the way around, down around 2 times. And then reverse your direction, down around to the left. Eyes open so you're not getting dizzy. All right, moving it down to our shoulders. Shoulders come down around and forward. Add in those elbows. And then full circles all the way up, around, and forward. Two more forward. And then let's reverse, starting with the shoulders just down and back. Start to incorporate those elbows. And then when you're ready, full circle all the way around and back. Let's do 3 more. And then open, close. Let's open up the chest. Just let those arms swing. Let's do 3 more. All right, working our way down to our hips. Feet right underneath your hips, hand on your hips if you need to, leading with that tailbone, sit it back. Flat back, knees are unlocked. Feeling this from the back side of your legs. Moving with your tailbone. Let's do 3 more here. Excellent. Coming to standing. Super wide with our legs and our feet. Keeping the legs straight, tilt that right hip up. Keep those legs straight so you can feel that in the inner thigh. And then back to center, tilting left side up. And back to center, walk your feet in a little closer together. We're gonna do those hip circles. So all the way around, forward, side, back and side. Let's do 3 big circles around to the right. And then just reverse, 3 circles around to the left. And back to center. Feet come right underneath your hips, knees unlocked, hands to the knees, small circles around, down and around and forward. And then reverse your direction. Excellent, come to standing. Ankles and calves now. This is where, remember, if you need the chair, feel free to grab that chair for balance. Nice wide stance, back heel down. You're gonna bend and extend forward leg, stretching out your ankle. All of these concepts are going to come back to us throughout today's session too. So all those things I talked about with mobility and stability, you're going to learn about all of them with what we do with our mobility warm-up too. Switching opposite side, both heels on the ground. Bend and extend. Two more. And coming forward, let's point and flex the toe. And let's make our circles around to the right. Make our circles around to the left. And let's switch. Point and flex. And let's make our circles. And let's switch direction. Awesome. Shake it out, grab some water. So the purpose of our warm-up is to create lubrication in all of our joints, whether there are stability joints or our mobility joints with exercise. Because all of our joints are going to move in some capacity when we exercise. The mobility joints are just meant to be your primary movers, and your stability joints are meant to kind of move secondarily. So that's kind of one of the biggest differences. So what we're going to do tonight, I'm going to go through 6 exercises. We're going to do them each one at a time, but we're going to do 4 sets. The first set, I just want you to do with body weight, okay? Because I want you to think about what's moving and what's not moving. And then on the second, the third, and the 4th set, if you want to add that weight and add that resistance, feel free to. Tonight, I will tell you, it probably won't be the hardest workout that you've ever done with me. This might feel a little bit easier, but hopefully mechanically, you'll feel like your body is moving more efficiently and you're understanding maybe where your areas to work are. So we're going to break down the squat first. So squat is a big lower body motion. And so we think about what our lower body joints, our hips are mobile, our ankles are meant to be mobile, but our knees are not meant to be mobile. So I'll show you an example of what a squat's supposed to look like. I'll kind of angle myself so you can see. So we move back with our hips, and at the end, we're really mobile with our ankle. Okay, I'll show you what happens when we do the opposite. It's very common for us, for whatever reason, like as we get older, we do all these things right as a kid. And then as we get older, we start doing the exact opposite of what our bodies are meant to do. But this is what happens when we are mobile with our knee and not mobile with our hips or ankles. When we're mobile with our knee, we drop our knees forward first. Okay, we don't move with our hips, we move with our knees. My knees are caving forward. I can already feel tension on my kneecaps from here. Now from here, I can't sit any lower. This is as far as I can go. So to go lower, say I'm watching this exercise and I'm like, I need to get down lower. What I have to do is I have to compromise my ankles. So I'm keeping my ankles stiff, my heels are coming up, and that's the only way I get lower. And then I come back to standing, and all of that with extreme motion through my knee, no motion through my hips, and no motion through my ankle, okay? So what we wanna think about with the squat is how do I get my knees to be minimally moving, but get my hips maximally moving backwards. And then what I mean by ankle flexion is that, you know, that exercise you do at the beginning, this one, that's in your ankle. That's not your knee that's doing that motion. It's all in your ankle. With your heel down, as far forward as your knee can come, that's your ankle flexibility. Okay? If your knee cannot extend past your toe, you might have a mobility issue in your calves. That might actually show us that we have some limited mobility with our ankles. But that's why we warm that motion up, is we're actually warming the ankles up, not warming our knees up. When we go to do the squat, this is what I want us to think, so you guys can come with me. Feet are hip width distant, heels and toes are out to the side. We're gonna hold our hands up like we're holding our weight. Think, be extremely mobile with my hips. I'm leading the motion with my hips. They go way back behind me and they're gonna keep moving. And then when I start to bend at what seems my knee, it's my ankle. My ankle is bending forward and allowing it to come down. I reverse, I push through my heels and I stand up. Okay. Hips move, and then I let my ankles move. This should take a lot of tension off your knees when you squat. When you squat, if you're feeling it significantly in your knees, I would venture to say that you're moving them way too much. You're probably not moving your hips enough, and you're probably not moving through your ankles enough. So we're going for 10. We're about maybe 4 here. Remember, the first set's body weight. And just feel that motion. Feel those hips constantly pulling back. Feel those ankles flexing forward. I think I'm like, got 2 more maybe. Emptying it up a little bit. And come to standing. For some of you, that might felt like you were able to get a little lower too. If you've been struggling with getting low squats, this is a way of increasing the depth of your squat during our little rest break here. So I had mentioned, if you're not able to kind of keep your heel down and extend your knee, that you might have some, you probably have your ankles are not flexible enough. A way to combat that when you're learning to do squats is to actually elevate them. So on your own, doing a lot of stretching of your calves is a really awesome idea. And that will help in doing like those remote moves that we do. But if you're really struggling and it's not your hips that are a problem, it's not the knees that's a problem, if you put your heels up on something, it doesn't have to be a lot. I've got these little plates here that I use, but something just to prop your feet up, those little platform heels for the ladies, you should actually be able to get a lot lower. Because now I don't have to flex my ankles quite as much. It's kind of lifting me up so that I don't have to do quite as much work through my ankles. So if you're really struggling with your squats because of your ankles, try elevating them up on something. It should help you get down a little bit lower, and then you can work on that ankle mobility a little bit more independently. But we're going to go for our second set. If you're feeling like you still don't feel everything the way you need to, don't feel like you need to add weight. If you felt pretty good, if you felt in the right position, feel free to grab your weights. We're going to go into our round 2, second set of 10, moving with those hips. Hips back, knees stable, mobile with the ankle. Going for 10. You're really thinking about where you're feeling this, what joints are working, and how they're working. Got my 10 here. Once you guys reach 10, same thing. Go ahead, take a little bit of a rest. Shake it out a little bit. Now, I will say, very common for people to have a history of knee problems and knee surgeries. If you have had a surgery on a joint, you are going to disrupt the normal pattern of the way that joint moves. So you might have some issues with stabilizing your knee, and that also might be the reason why you can't get your hips very low, because what will happen is if you have a really unstable joint that's meant to be stable, you're going to get to this point and your body's going to talk to your brain, and it's going to say that knee is not stable enough to keep us where we need to go, so it's not going to let you get any lower. So sometimes the lack of flexibility is also a signal that the joint that needs to be stable is not stable. So if you have a recent injury, if you're working on rehabbing something, or if you just have a problem with your knee, that might also be the reason. And it's just doing stabilization exercises. There's a lot of things that PTs, physical therapists, work on, is to re-stabilize that joint. Once that joint is stable, then when you get to this point, your body says, we trust it. We trust the knee to stay stable and hold in position. With those mindsets, do our best. If you need to elevate your feet for your ankles, feel free to do so, but we're going into round 2. Hips back, moving with the ankles. Good to think too, as you're going down, move with my ankles instead of move with my knees. It's a different visual. Make sure you're breathing too. Don't hold your breath through this. That won't help anything. And once you reach your 10, if you're using your weights, set your weights down, shake it out. Excellent. We've already kind of explained a little bit of why we warm up doing a lot of our lower body drills, a little bit of this movement that we do too, this ankle one, this knee one, that's the amount of motion that I really want in your knees, is like minimal, right? Compared to what my hips can do, this is minimal. So a stable joint doesn't mean, like I said, it doesn't mean it doesn't ever move. You are going to move in that joint, but it's going to be minimal compared to those mobile joints. So anytime you warm up, or in a warm-up routine, I tend to do a similar one again and again. I think it's easier for me to remember, but on your own, you don't always have to do the same one. Just remember, if I'm going to do an exercise using those joints, I need to kind of practice putting them through their range of motion before I try to add weight and do that. It's just the best way to warm our bodies up. So this is our last one to think about, it's our squat. And then we're going to move on to our second exercise of the night. Let's make them our best ones. Hip width distance, heel toes out to the side. Moving with our hips, moving with our ankles, minimal movement with our knees. They're holding strong. And once you guys reach your 10, you can set your weights down and relax. And just so you guys know, to go over, I'll pair muscles too with the joints. If you're doing squats correctly, you're going to feel it in the front of your leg and in your glutes. Those are the two primary muscle groups that are working. So if you're feeling it there while you're doing your squats, that's another sign that you're in the right spot, please. All right, second movement of the night, overhead press. This is one of my favorite ones to talk about with these joints, because a lot of people think that they have shoulder issues, and it's really back issues that's limiting your flexibility. So let's go over the position. I know you guys know it, but overhead press, hands are right above your shoulders, elbows are pointed down, knuckles are pointing towards the sky. You inhale, you exhale, press, extend. I know you guys can't see me that well. Let's see if I can move back. And then you come down. You inhale, you exhale, press, extend. You come back down. Now, from a side view, well, let's just review with the upper body. What's mobile, what's stable? Cervical spine is stable, okay? Minimal motion from your cervical spine. Thoracic spine, the middle of you, that should be extremely mobile, okay? Lumbar spine, it should be stable. We should not see a whole lot of like movement happening in our low spine. Common mistakes with the overhead press is we do a lot of movement in our cervical spine. We keep our thoracic spine still, and we arch our back, right? Because we know we want to go overhead, but instead of moving through our middle of our spine, we're thinking, oh, I got to move and rotate my neck. I'm trying to go up. I can't get any further, so to look vertical, I'm going to arch. And my end kind of arched to be here. And if you sit up tall, you're actually angled. You're not even completely overhead. So a lot of people think my shoulder is not mobile enough to get me here. But what's happening is you're not moving the middle of your back. So when you go to do an overhead press, you should feel your rotator cuff squeeze and pull together. That's going to externally rotate your shoulders and give you the ability to actually move your arms overhead. So when I go to do an overhead press, we can all do it now. Let's all do our body weight one. Think my shoulders are down, my cervical spine stable, my low spine stable. Squeeze my butt, squeeze my abs, okay? And then move my shoulder blades together as I bring my arms up and keep them there as I bring my arms down, okay? So shoulder blades together, come up, and they kind of release a little bit as you go down. Should feel like you can be pretty vertical or a lot more vertical. So I'm at like 5 or so here. We're doing 10. Just going through the motion. And maybe do 1 or 2 where you don't move your shoulder blades. So you guys might be able to see it from the back. So like this is me not moving my shoulder blades in an overhead press. Theoretically, if I'm just coaching you, I'm saying hands above your shoulders, reach up overhead here, right? So this technically looks like I'm doing it right, but there's a big difference between this and this. You should see my, hopefully you can see my shoulder blades come together and move together. So if you're doing that, suddenly you have all this range of motion that you didn't have before. So we're gonna grab our weights if that feels right for you. And that's what I want you to think about. Is as you press your arms overhead, pull the shoulder blades together. Use that middle spine. Keep that mobile. Keep your upper back and lower back still. So we're gonna inhale, we're gonna exhale. Move with those rotator cuffs. Going for 10. Once you get 10, go ahead, set your weights down, shake out your arms. So a common thing you hear me say too, and you'll realize when trainers in general, and I'm just this prone to this, I do this too, we will cue you in different ways, but we might not say bring your shoulder blades together. But what I'll say is keep your shoulders down, biceps by your ear, knuckles to the ceiling. All of those things, if you're pulling your shoulder blades back, should kind of be fixed actually. So all of those things mean kind of the same thing, is to pull those shoulder blades back, because your goal of your rotator cuff that's back there doing that, it does two things. It externally rotates your shoulders, and it depresses our humeral head, or our shoulder joint, our big shoulder joint here. So when we activate that middle back, we roll our shoulders back and pull them down when we do that motion here, and then it really frees up a whole lot of motion for us here. So again, like I said, I usually cue like bring your shoulders down, knuckles to the sky, all of these things. But it might be a better thing to think about, pull your shoulder blades together as you press your arms overhead. We're gonna go round two, same concept. Arms right above the shoulders to start. Make sure those knees are unlocked. Get that low back stable. Pull those shoulder blades together, press overhead. Inhale, exhale, lower down. The exhale really helps you squeeze too. So squeeze those shoulders, exhale. Inhale, lower. And we're going for 10. 10 and then rest, relax. Shake it on out. It's always good to kind of reverse what you just did, right? You're creating a lot of tension. You'll find with a lot of upper body exercises, if you're doing them effectively, whether they're a push or a pull, you're gonna feel your rotator cuffs working. They're doing a lot of work through a lot of different exercises. I find people, if you've had minimal movement through your rotator cuffs, through your thoracic spine, and you suddenly start doing that, people will do like a bench press or something that you wouldn't think that you're working your back, and the next day they're like, oh my gosh, my back is so sore, because you're actually moving that muscle group and not leaving it flat. So don't be surprised if this seems kind of minimal. We're taking plenty of breaks and we're just focusing on one thing at a time, or kind of moving through, but don't be surprised if tomorrow you feel things in different areas that maybe you haven't, and that's generally a good thing. And if this is feeling like exactly how you've been doing the exercise, awesome. I'm very happy you've been doing it right. But if this helps correct even one problem in your form and your technique, you guys might see a lot of progress in your future. All right, pull those shoulder blades together. Inhale, exhale, let's do our last set. Cervical spine still, our low spine still. We're just moving through that middle spine, giving us all the openness we need to get those arms overhead. And weights come down. Ooh, mine are rolling off. Grab a quick sip of water. All right. So we're going to take it into our next motion. We're still thinking same concept. We're going to go over our Romanian deadlift or our stiff leg deadlift. Okay. So we've worked on this in a lot of capacities. Last month we were doing a lot of single leg stuff. We're going to take it back to the basics. So this is a little bit different. So when you go into a deadlift pattern, you actually are going to stabilize your ankle joint. So from a joint perspective, the biggest difference between a squat and a deadlift, in a squat, your ankles are mobile. In a deadlift, your ankles are not mobile in a stiff leg deadlift. Okay. So although they're capable of being mobile in motions, we're going to stabilize at our ankle. We're going to stabilize at our knee. And then just like we do in our warm up, we're just going to focus on opening up the hip, right? So this is what's happening. If this is stable and this is stable, and that means I'm not moving my ankles anymore, then this is my deadlift, just the hip. So from a lower body perspective, that's what's happening. Now with the deadlift, it does work everything posterior side. So you are working through your back. So it's important to make sure those joints are in alignment as well. So as you're bending forward, super common, especially when you go to grab weights, is to kind of lose the shape of your back. So you still want to think, my cervical spine is stable, my low spine is stable, and my thoracic spine is mobile. So what that means is when I go to hold weight, this is still, and to get that flat back motion, it comes from my thoracic spine. It comes from that middle of my back. So like I said, you're going to be still in the middle of your back quite a bit if you're someone that does these big motion exercises. So with your upper back, think pull back with the shoulder blades, keep this still, especially with the deadlift. Common mistake is to feel a little bit of motion with your low back. The second you feel that in your low back and you're lifting something, once that gets heavy, that's where you're going to pull out your back. I've done it to myself plenty of times, actually, with the deadlift, because all it takes is that split second where you're doing them fine, and then there's one where you just kind of collapse just a little bit. Maybe it's a little heavy, so you're kind of just, you kind of collapse a little bit. That's all it takes to stand and really like tweak your low back. So it is super important to also think about your upper body position when you go into deadlift. So let's go ahead. Let's do a 10 without any weight. So stable, hips mobile, stable low spine, mobile mid back, stable upper back, and here we go. So theoretically, if I'm working my upper body with my lower body, my weight should stay relatively close to my body. So that pull back with my shoulder blades is keeping that weight close. My hips are moving, my ankles and knees are stable. Let's just do a couple more because I'm not sure what number I'm on. And awesome. And also from a muscle standpoint, where are you feeling the deadlift? You're going to feel it everything on the back side versus, like I said, with the squat, that ankle flexion really works the quads as opposed to the hamstrings. So let's go ahead and grab our weight. Let's go into our first set. Stable ankles, stable knees, move with our hips, move with our middle back, everything else stays still. Flat back reach, come back to standing. Watch that low back, make sure that stays stable. If you feel like you need to move with your upper body, you're moving from the middle of your upper back. Same thing, reach your 10, go ahead and take your rest. Awesome. So the deadlift is one of the reasons I always put hip hinges in my warm up. And you guys are awesome. I think because a lot of you guys have been tuning in and you guys are hanging out with me. But I'll tell you this, it's probably one of the hardest things in fitness to teach people. No one wants to do this. I think they just feel silly, like no one wants to stick their butt out. But it's a much safer place for your body to be in. So you guys actually do a really good job with your hip hinges. The only thing I'm kind of thinking of, like being a little aware of is sometimes it's super micro. You can't tell so much, but it might just be that, and you're losing your low back. Squeeze it in. That's why every single one of these exercises too, if you stabilize your low back, what you're doing is you're activating your core. So then if you're doing that every exercise, you're working your core again and again and again and again and again. This is why if you do all these big major muscle movements too, you don't necessarily need to like spend a whole lot of extra additional time training your core. You're doing it again and again and again. So let's go round 2 with the weights. Heel toes forward, ankles stable, knees stable. Move with those hips, low back stable. Pull your shoulder blades together to get that back flatter. If you're feeling like you're looking rounded, that's where that flat back is gonna start from. Same thing, 10. We'll do a little rest, shake it out. Move around any way that's right. Another way to tell, again, because this is getting like that mind-body connection, and you might not always feel things right away. It might take a couple times of thinking about it. But another good way to know if you're moving in your low back and you know that you shouldn't be is if your weights are coming off of your legs, your low back's moving. So you're really like in a deadlift, those weights kind of just, they skim down your legs here. If I'm out here, I cannot be out here without moving in my low back. Here, I have control. Here, I don't. So sometimes at home, I don't know where you guys exercise or where you guys do these things. On Zoom too, you can probably even pull up your own picture. You don't want to look at me the whole time. But mirrors are super helpful when you're getting like into exercise and form and technique, because you might be able to see that, right? Like, oh, wait, you're right. Maybe my arms are way up here. Maybe I need to bring them back. But that's a good cueing sign for whether your low back's in the right place. So let's think about that. Keep those weights close. Move with our shoulder blades. Low back stable. Knees unlocked. Move with those hips. Keep those weights close. Last set of 10. And then weights down. Shake it on out. Going to move along to upper body. Our next exercise I want to go through is the row. Let me check my time here. I'm doing pretty good. Okay. Next exercise I want to show you guys is the row. So we're going to do a bent over row. Yes, there's many variations of the row, but bent over row. So we're kind of in that position that we were in. This is a time frame where I am going to bring my arms off of my back. I'm not coming as low as maybe I am in my deadlift. I'm more of a 45-degree angle. Now, usually my cueing with the row is bring your elbows back, squeeze the shoulder blades, release, come down. It's very easy in a row. I'm going to show you from the backside too, so you guys can, hopefully you can see my shoulder blades. I can have my arms straight down. I can pull my elbows back, and then I can release. I can come down. So that looks like this. So if I'm just standing here doing this, it looks like I'm doing it right. It does. I look pretty decent. However, I'm not feeling this in my back at all. If anything, I'm probably overloading. I'm like doing a lot of bicep work, and I may be taxing my shoulders a little bit. When I'm not moving my back, you'll actually notice in my shoulders, they tilt down and forward. That's another sign you're not using your back. They kind of do this little weird tilting thing. So you're following the directions, but you're not using your back. So what I want you to think about, again, that mid-back area, we keep using it, right? But when I'm in that position, when I come back, I'm pulling with those shoulder blades. So this is what that end position looks like. It should look drastically different, okay? So now I come down to this position, and I get in that position to do that. I pull with my shoulder blades, and I come down. I pull with my shoulder blades, and I come down. Because we're in this position, you got to do a whole lot of low back stabilization, like no motion. So like, I don't want any of this twerking stuff happening, right? We got to keep this super stable. We got to keep this super stable, and we got to move with the middle of our back. Notice what happens with my shoulders too. Big difference, right? Between that and that. Right. Okay, if you haven't practiced already, let's go through 10. Let's go through 10 in this position. Arms are down, stabilize that low spine. Pull with your shoulder blades, release, come down. Pull with your shoulder blades, release, come down. I always try to think about it too. When I'm doing a row, I'm pulling with my back. I'm not pulling with my arms. My arms are just the hook to the weight. It's my back that's doing the driving force. So you should be able to lift a little bit more weight too if you do it this way, because your back is a bigger muscle, stronger than your biceps. All right, once you guys got a little bit of practice, go ahead and stand up. In a bent over position, it is really taxing for your core to hold your body in that place. So the bent over row is another good example of where we're getting a lot of core strength. Same thing, if you get a lot of pinching in your low back, it means you're swaying. Sometimes your stomach is pooching out like this. That's a sign that you're swaying. Ooh, tuck it under. Tuck, squeeze this. This should be flat. These should be tight. Keep that as tight as you can. You're gonna get a lot of ab work if you're doing it that way. All right, let's grab our waist and do it. Hip width distance, brace our back, and we're pulling with our shoulder blades out and back. See those shoulders move. Make sure you're breathing. Exhale without contraction. It's gonna help make that squeeze. 10, and then bring your weights down, stand up, shake it on out. Whatever feels good. Hopefully you guys are feeling this today. Like I said, may not be the hardest workout you've ever done, and it is kind of the basics. My goal for you guys tonight is just to get you to think. Because once exercise gets complicated, and once weights get super heavy, all of this stuff is harder to think about, especially when the weight's super heavy. If I grab much heavier dumbbells and I go to do this, it's hard for me to even know what's going on at that point. I'm barely, able to concentrate on anything except for how heavy maybe these weights are. So I have to have really good body mechanics that are just preset so that when I go to do the exercise, I'm still effectively working the muscles the correct way and I'm not compromising my joint. Let's go, round 2. Thinking about it, knees are unlocked. Brace that low back, brace that upper back, move with your thoracic spine. Rotate those shoulders open, pull those shoulder blades together every time. And then drop them, relax. Shake it on out. I'm not gonna get into a whole lot of arm stuff today, but just to kind of go over the joints, because I know I'm talking like spinal column more so top to bottom, but your shoulder is also your mobile joint. As you may know, your wrist is your mobile joint. Your elbow is a stable joint. So you think like a bicep curl, your elbow's stable, you're moving with your wrist. You can be flexible with your shoulders when we go into tricep stuff. Mobile, elbow is the stability joint in between those two. All right, let's do one more set of rows. We got 2 more exercises to do today. Knees unlocked, brace that low back. Get those shoulders ready, get that mid back ready. Pull back, open up those shoulders, squeeze those shoulder blades, work with your back, pull those weights back with your middle of your back. Don't forget about that core, keep bracing. 10, and relax. Shake it on out, grab some water. Once you guys get your 10, your next exercise coming up, we are gonna break apart the push-ups. So because we're breaking apart and really taking our time, I do encourage you guys to do a modification. Because I'm gonna actually slow the tempo down of the push-ups. So you might wanna say you normally do them on the floor, on your toes. Maybe you wanna do them on your knees on the floor. You might wanna elevate yourself. Maybe you make that a little bit more elevated. Of course, you can make this as hard as you like. But like I said, I'm gonna slow the tempo down on these, so it might make it a little bit more challenging. So we're gonna go through the push-up. So in the push-up, this is actually an example where we get a lot of movement with our wrists, right? We're getting a lot of wrist flexion. We're gonna move a lot through our shoulders. And again, I'm gonna try to show you a wrong and then show you a right. So thinking about that lower body, my lower body is usually completely locked out. I am usually having some level of flexion with my toes, right? Even when I'm up here, if I'm on the floor, right? I got a lot of movement in my ankles, but when I'm elevated, maybe not quite as much. Everything else is nice and stable. Now, if I don't use my back effectively, my push-up looks like, let me try a little bit better, like this. Okay, it does look like I'm doing push-ups. But this is what, if you saw from an aerial view, what I'm doing. Same problem that we've had with a lot of exercises. So when you go to do a push-up, it should be the middle of your spine that's pulling those arms back and you're pushing forward. At the same time, what's gonna make the push-up challenging? Stable and stable, right? So you really should see none of this crunching up into your cervical spine, and you want to not see any of this happening, right, in our low spine. You got to lift the pelvis up, you got to squeeze your abs, and you got to pull those shoulder blades together and think about like drawing your body down. So what I'm going to have us do is a 2 count lower, 1001, 1002, and then a push up. Okay, we're going to do 3 sets. We'll do 3 sets at a time because push-ups are kind of, we don't add weight to them. Let's go ahead and get in whatever position that you guys want to be in. We're placing our shoulders directly over our wrist. We're actively pushing out with our ankles, and we're gonna pull ourselves down by squeezing our shoulder blades together, okay? So we're gonna lower slow, 1, 2, and up. We're gonna lower 1, 2, and up. Are you feeling it in your shoulder blades? I want you to feel it as you lower. That's 3, 1, 2, 4, 1, 2, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10. Once you reach 10, go ahead and stand up, give yourself a little bit of a break. So areas of tension you should never feel when you're doing push-ups, your neck. If you're feeling areas of tension in your neck, you're moving your cervical spine. You don't want to move our cervical spine. If you're feeling it in your low back, you're having way too much mobility happening in your low back. So both of those things can be corrected by moving our mid back, because something does need to move. You can't be just completely stable, stable, stable. After this, we're actually going to go through the plank too. And even in that, there's mobility. It's not all stability. So if you're feeling it ever in your neck and in your low back, kind of move that mid back when you're going down to that push up. A lot of times it can fix that. Let's go for it. Let's do round 2. We're ready. Hands beneath your shoulders. If you need to do a wider stance too with your feet, that makes you feel a little bit more stable as we're going slower. Shoulders are down. Pull those shoulder blades together. Lower down for 2. Press up for 1. 1, 2, 2. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 4. 1, 2, 5. You should be feeling nothing in your low back, 6, or in your neck, 7, 8, 9, 10. All right, 10 and relax. Shake it on out. Move those shoulders around. Move anything around you need to. We are going to do one more set of these push-ups. Again, if you need to modify them a little bit more, feel free to do so. Doing an exercise this way is called an eccentric push-up, or a lot of times people call it like negative, when you're really slowing that lowering phase. It's another way to make an exercise harder without changing the way you're doing it. So tempo, speed. If you slow down your tempo, it's going to do two things. It's going to make you really concentrate on whether you're doing something right, and it's going to make it harder. So if you're finding that you need ways to make your exercises harder at home, maybe work on tempo too. That can make a huge difference. So let's do our last set of these push-ups. Body nice and straight, shoulders are down. Keep cervical spine, low spine stable. Move with that mid spine, lower and press. Ooh, I didn't really do a 2 count on that one. Let's fix it. 2, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 4, 1, 2, 5, 1, 2, 6, 1, 2, 7, 1, 2, 8, 1, 2, 9, 1, 2, and 10. You guys have 1 or 2 more. Go ahead and finish them on out. All right. And to end tonight, we are going to end on the best corrective exercise for all of these things. So if you're going through any exercises tonight and you were struggling with either keeping a joint stable that was supposed to be stable, or with moving a joint that was supposed to be moving, the plank is one of the best movements to help you correct that. So we're going to do 3 planks. We're going to do 30 seconds. The first time through, we're only going to think about what our stable joints are doing and if they're doing what they need to be doing. Second time through, we're only going to think about our mobile joints and what they're doing and if they're doing what they need to be doing. Third time through, we're going to try to tie it all together. Okay, so planks, we will come down to the mat or come down to the floor. If you would like to do a modification, you can do this to a chair or bench height. We are going to do a high plank. You can do a low plank. Your low plank is down to your elbows. But for today, I'm going to do a high plank. My watch up so I can get my timer. So we're going to position ourselves. It kind of looks like a push-up. It doesn't happen, our plank. So our wrists are right underneath our shoulders. And we're going to bring ourselves up to the balls of our toe. We're going to get ready here. Go for our first 30 seconds, up and hold. So we're going to talk about what is supposed to be stable. So working away from our top, our cervical spine is stable, right? I'm not falling through. My head is nice and straight. I don't have tension in my neck. Moving down, what's my next stable joint is my low spine. So I should be activating my core. I'm squeezing my belly. I'm keeping my low back from swaying down. And then moving down to my knees. They should be completely locked out, squeezing, no motion in my knees. We're going to hold for 3, 2, 1, and down. All right, we're going to take a little mini break there. So to review, stable joints. We just went through them. Your neck, your low spine, your knees, your elbows. I guess your elbows were locked out in that sense, right? Let's give it another 15 seconds. We're going to go for our second round of 30. This time we're going to think about what's supposed to be mobile. So here we go. I'm going to go in 3, 2, 1. Let's pop up to our plank. So we're in this plank position, and now we got to think about our mobile joints. So the middle of our back, it's still mobile. So we're not completely flat, right? We're actually seeing a little bit of mobility in that joint. Our hips are actively kind of pulling upward and holding our low back where it needs to be, and our ankles are actively pushing outward. So think actively push your ankles out, push those heels down. You got another couple seconds here. Keep holding, keep holding, keep holding. 3, 2, 1, and release. Shake it out. Sometimes your wrists too. This is a lot of flexion, right? So sometimes I like to do little wrist circles when I'm doing planks. Planks are a really great motion, like I said, to be corrective. Because they're body weight, you really can do planks every day if you wanted to. Like I said, if it's something that you, all of these kind of joint mobility, stability things are things that you want to work on, I might encourage you to work on planks and try to make a goal for yourself of doing planks at least a couple times a week and just progress in time and your intensity, and really think about all these different body parts and are you moving correctly? Because if you can master the plank, if you think about kind of all the things, we were doing a version of the plank and really all the motions that we did today. So you can master the plank, you can kind of master all of your exercises. All right, guys, we're gonna do one last plank. This one's gonna be 45 seconds. We're gonna start in 10 seconds. I'm on a good number here, so wrists right underneath your shoulders. We got 5 seconds, 4, 3, 2, 1, and here we go. So now we're gonna think about everything. We're holding for 45. We've got a stable cervical spine. We've got some movement in our thoracic spine. Our low spine is stable. Our hips are able to move us upwards. Our knees are locked out and straight. And we've got active movement from our ankles. And we're holding and we're breathing. And we've got another 15 seconds. You guys can hold. Keep going, keep going. Squeeze. If you're feeling like you're shaking, that's usually a good sign. Your body is trying to stabilize itself, trying to hold you in the position that you put it in. 5 seconds, 4, 3, 2, and 1. Whew. All righty. Nice work, guys. That actually lasted the whole hour. That flew. All right, let's just do a little bit of our stretching. Hopefully you guys enjoyed that. Hopefully it was beneficial for you guys. You felt like you learned something maybe. If not, that's fine. I'm glad you stuck around. Couple announcements I did want to make. I know many of you guys have already attended our classes this week, but we are doing our challenge this month, our kind of self-care, self-love challenge. So please, you can head to our website and kind of see what that's all about. There's a great handout that Open made or put up there that you guys can follow along with. And then is Betty still here? Betty, are you still here? Is she off? Oh, she is here. Betty, you're our winner for the hydration challenge. Yay! We need to announce that. So we just finalized our logo, and you are going to be getting a Flux class, our first Flux class. So we will be sending that out to you shortly. So congratulations. I'm so happy you logged in. Yay. I think we'll probably do another Flux flask or some other level of swag, depending on what we get in July, for our challenge winner as well, if that entices you. All right, let's do a big stretch up. And let's round our backs. Let's release those shoulder blades. They did a lot of work for us today. We can just relax them now. Move to one side. Move to the other side. All right, shake it out. Thanks so much for showing up today, guys. I hope it was helpful. Flex classes will keep going on for the month of July on Wednesday.